outpouring of support. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir. Good evening, and we begin tonight with several breaking stories. The dangerous winds moving into the east, Georgia right up through Washington, D.C., New York to Boston tonight, gusts up to 50 miles per hour. So Lee Goldberg is standing by. But we begin tonight with President Trump's tariff whiplash. In a major reversal of the trade war he ignited with Mexico and Canada, he now says he'll pause many of his tariffs for another month. Even with that news that he'll put it on hold, the Dow dropping again more than 400 points today. The president just 2 days after imposing those 25% tariffs on imports from America's closest neighbors, saying he will suspend most of those tariffs until April 2nd, of course, less than a month from now. There have been wild swings this week in the market, the Dow falling 427 points today, the third day of losses this week. Tonight, the president insisting his reversal on tariffs has nothing to do with the markets. ABC's Rachel Scott leading us off at the White House.
Tonight, a stunning reversal by the White House after a roller coaster week on Wall Street. President Trump putting a pause on many of his 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico. Still, the Dow dropping more than 400 points. Investors anxious about the turmoil Trump's tariffs have created. The president, who has famously watched the markets, insisting they played no role in his decision.
No, nothing to do with the market. I'm not even looking at the market.
Trump saying he agreed to pause the tariffs as a, quote, accommodation and out of respect for Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum.
And I spoke to the president of Mexico, wonderful woman, today, and we helped them out with a problem they were having to do with the tariffs, short-term tariffs.
But he made it clear this was only going to be a short-term pause, just until April 2nd. Economists warn that tariffs are paid by American businesses, and they pass the cost along to consumers by raising prices. And Trump himself acknowledges prices could rise.
There'll always be a little short-term interruption. I don't think it's going to be big, but the countries and companies that have been ripping us aren't particularly happy with what I'm doing. But the United States will be very happy. And, you know, our farmers are going to be very happy. And again, there'll be disruption.
The current pause will lift tariffs on many, but not all products coming in from Canada and Mexico. Still across the country, the stress is palpable. In Columbus, Ohio, Ada Wilson owns the Rio Fresh grocery store that relies on fruits and vegetables imported from Mexico.
When we have to provide fresh every day, prices change every day and it's going up. So we're trying to not raise our prices, but it's affecting the business.
In Riverside, California, Matt Obrey sells lumber used to build homes. Much of that wood imported from Canada. He says when the cost of lumber goes up, so does the price of a new house.
You can see $10,000 to $15,000 added on to the framing cost of a house easily. Because there's so many different items that we do buy from Canada.
Trump making it clear today this is only a short-term pause. It comes after he granted a one-month pause to the big three American automakers who complained the tariffs would devastate the industry.
And I said, look, I'm going to do it, but that's it. Don't come back to me after the April 2nd. I don't want to hear from you after April 2nd. We're not going to be doing it anymore.
And it comes despite his promise to voters that he would tackle inflation on day one and quickly bring down the cost of living.
We will end inflation and we will make America affordable again. Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again.
The White House is hoping that this move will calm some of the instability in the markets, but the president has made it clear he is moving forward with those tariffs next month. So the big question tonight, how much impact will this pause have when businesses are already bracing for impact anyway, David?
Rachel Scott leading us off tonight. Rachel, thank you. Next tonight, the dangerous winds as we're on the air tonight. 70 million Americans under high wind alerts from Georgia up through D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Boston tonight could see 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Lee Goldberg standing by with the forecast. Stephanie Ramos with the storm right before these winds.
Tonight, millions in the Northeast on alert for high winds after a wild night of storms that flooded streets and snapped trees.
Gusts already today topping up to 45 miles per hour, and the gusty winds, they're not over yet.
In Philadelphia, heavy rain flooding the Schuylkill Expressway, swamping commuters before the sun came up. High winds sending trees onto cars. In New Jersey, drivers on Route 3 in Passaic County navigating a high water evening commute. Trees crashing into homes in Hillside, New Jersey. Power lines sizzling on the pavement. After that tree landed on her home, this doorbell camera showing a stunned Sabrina Chase dashing outside with her son as neighbors came to check on them.
It felt like an earthquake or something. Like it shook the whole house, and I didn't know what I thought the roof was gonna cave in on us, so I just picked them up and ran as fast as I could out the house.
And now a new storm in the west, threatening to dump feet of snow. Officials in Utah's Cottonwood Canyons shutting roads so they can prepare hillsides and prevent avalanches. And David, wind gusts up to 15 miles an hour are expected tonight, prompting officials to ban empty tractor trailers on New York City bridges until tomorrow. And frigid cold air is on the way. David.
Incredible. Telling the rigs to stay off the bridges tonight. Stephanie, thank you. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg from our New York station, WABC. Haley.
Hey, David, and those whipping winds complicating things over the waterlogged ground. We could topple more trees over the next 24 hours. We have wind alerts from Georgia all the way to the northeast into tomorrow, even a high wind warning over parts of Massachusetts. Wind gusts from New York back to Altoona already gusting 35 to 45 miles an hour. And as we go through the day tomorrow, the winds will peak here in New York midday, but we could have 50-mile-per-hour gusts in Boston, nearby Worcester, maybe 60-mile-per-hour gusts. Out west, it's heavy rain in Southern California, but heavy snow in the mountains. Up to 3 feet of snow as we go into the Rockies as the storm begins to spread eastward tomorrow. Ultimately, this will be moving into the Midwest. We could have a few inches of snow in Nebraska all the way into Iowa, even a dusting to a couple of inches in Chicago. The storm will weaken after that. David?
All right, tracking it again tonight, Lee. Thank you. This evening, we're hearing from Pope Francis for the first time since he was rushed to the hospital 3 weeks ago. Tonight, you will hear his voice right here. It moved so many who were gathered in St. Peter's Square. Terry Moran at the Vatican again tonight.
Tonight, Pope Francis speaking to the faithful in St. Peter's Square and to the world. This marks the first time his voice has been heard since he was hospitalized 3 weeks ago. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, the 88-year-old Francis says in his native Spanish, his voice thin, barely louder than a whisper. For your prayers for my health from the square. The audio message surprising the crowd. I accompany you from here, Francis continues, sounding short of breath, then giving his blessing, saying, May God bless you and the Virgin protect you. Thank you. From those gathered here, as people do every night to pray for the Pope's recovery, a round of applause. Today's medical report was encouraging. The Pope's doctors say that he remains stable, he continues his treatments, and given that, they see no reason for another medical update until Saturday. But Francis's condition and his prognosis remains guarded, and his doctors have given no indication at this point of when the Pope might be able to leave the hospital. David?
You could see, though, the temporary relief in the faces of those gathered in the square. Terry, thank you. Back here in the U.S. tonight, there is news this evening after that horrific and deadly crash of that medical jet in Philadelphia in the air for just a minute. What we've now learned about that plane, the cockpit voice recorder was not working and likely had not worked for years. Here's Whit Johnson.
Tonight, the NTSB releasing new details on that deadly medical jet crash in Philadelphia that killed 7 people. Investigators revealing there were no distress calls received from the flight crew. The aircraft plunging to the ground at a 22-degree angle, bursting into flames on impact.
It was a very steep angle at which that aircraft came down.
The badly damaged cockpit voice recorder found 8 feet below the impact site. The NTSB saying the black box did not record the accident flight, and it had likely not been recording audio for several years. The agency saying the Medevac Learjet was in the air for about a minute before the crash. At least 24 people injured, nearby homes catching fire. All 6 people on board that jet killed, including a mother and her 11-year-old daughter who had just received care at a nearby hospital. Another person killed in a car on the ground.
And David, the NTSB says the plane also had a ground proximity warning system, which is now being examined to determine if any additional data can be recovered. David.
Whit Johnson with us tonight. Whit, thank you. Now to those major cuts, federal workers losing their jobs at the White House today, a remarkable moment. President Trump called a meeting of his cabinet secretaries. Elon Musk was there, and he told his cabinet they choose who actually goes, not Elon Musk. Here's Mary Bruce.
Tonight, after weeks of tense town meetings, public backlash to Elon Musk's chainsaw approach to mass firings. President Trump tonight telling his cabinet secretaries they're in charge of who gets cut from their agencies, not Musk. Just 2 days ago, Trump showering Musk with praise.
And I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
But tonight, a tacit admission that Musk's approach has gone too far. Trump saying cabinet secretaries need to decide who stays and who goes, using the scalpel rather than the hatchet. He told them as much today in a closed-door cabinet meeting, with Musk there in the room.
So I had a meeting, and I said, I want the cabinet members go first. Keep all the people you want, everybody that you need. And when we have good people, that's precious. It's very important, and we want them to keep the good people.
Musk is polarizing. 49% of Americans disapprove of the job he's doing, while 34% approve. He's ordered government workers to send emails listing their weekly accomplishments, and his team is the driving force behind mass layoffs. The president now saying he wants a more targeted approach.
Elon has been really teaching everybody about the numbers that you can do. But what I want is I want the numbers, but I also want to keep the good people.
It comes as Elon Musk's approach is certainly rubbing some people the wrong way, and now some Republican members on the Hill are saying publicly that he is complicating their lives and warning that he may be making mistakes and hurting innocent Americans in the process. David.
Mary Bruce at the White House tonight. Thank you, Mary. Now to the Idaho College murders case. Tonight, newly released text messages just in and the 911 call from the home. Here's Kana Whitworth.
Tonight, bombshell evidence in the case against Bryan Kohberger. For the first time, we're seeing transcripts of the chilling text between the two surviving roommates on the night their four friends were stabbed to death near the University of Idaho. In a newly unsealed motion, prosecutors asking a judge to admit text messages between those roommates as evidence. After one allegedly saw the suspect in a mask, she tries unsuccessfully to reach the victims, then text her other roommate in the basement. I'm freaking out right now. No, it's like a ski mask almost. The second survivor texting back, run, down here. It's unclear what happened next, but about 6 hours later, one of the survivors tries but can't reach the victim's phone by text. Texting Kaylee Gonzalez, please answer. Texting Madison Mogan, are you up? Just before noon, more than 7 hours after the murders, that 911 call is placed by one of the roommates. Saying, one of the roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Telling the dispatcher, oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. And David, Bryan Kohberger's lawyers who say he is innocent claim these exchanges are hearsay. Now, both of these surviving roommates are expected to be critical witnesses at the trial in August. David.
All right, Kana, on this case again tonight, thank you. Tonight, the stunning military accident. 2 South Korean fighter jets mistakenly bombing a village during a military training exercise. A massive explosion rocking a residential neighborhood just miles from the heavily armed North Korean border. The jets dropping 8 500-pound bombs. An official says a pilot entered the wrong coordinates. When we come back here tonight, an adult who died testing positive for measles afterward. Also hear Dolly Parton's heartfelt message tonight following the death of her husband, the outpouring of support. And look at the dramatic images tonight. Police racing this.
With Dupixent, stay ahead of moderate to...
Tonight, health officials say an adult who died tested positive for measles in Lea County, New Mexico, the second deadly case of measles in the U.S. this year. The unvaccinated adult testing positive for measles but not seeking treatment. 10 cases reported in the county so far. First responders racing to save a 12-year-old boy who nearly drowned in a hotel pool in Warren, Michigan, outside Detroit. A police officer racing to the pool, immediately beginning CPR for 2 minutes, reviving the child. The boy has since been released from the hospital. When we come back tonight, to the index, SpaceX losing contact with its Starship rocket just moments after liftoff a short time ago. About 9 minutes into the test flight, Starship separated, the engines went out, mission control losing contact.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Mary Kelby in today for Deborah. Imagine arriving at your home